Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
What do you want?
I want you to know that I actually do spend some brain time thinking, all right, what's the intro going to be to this episode if the guys have nothing? And then I would say probably half the time I have that and I look over at you and you have your toque on inside out and I ask you what's wrong, or standing on your head like it's a chef's hat. I'm like, what's wrong? You're like, my ears are hot, but my hair is messed up.
I'll just wear like this episode. There.
And you got this bright...
Sorry, I'm just trying to bring viewers to YouTube. My apologies.
The world's most vibrant colors are apparently saved for golf apparel.
This is what I put on at 7:30 this morning, and I just didn't care.
That's actually better than your previous episode where you were wearing 3-day-old clothes or whatever.
I had paint on my clothes.
Yeah.
Drywall dust. Good times.
Ladies and gentlemen, Evan Lobsinger, the highest earner on the Winged Wheel podcast. And I would wager by a good margin. I actually don't want to know what you make.
I'm not telling you.
Unfortunately, you all have to listen to the lowly peons that are myself and Brad. Welcome to the Winged Wheel podcast. Here to talk to you about things other than the ongoing mystery of Evan Lobsinger, the person. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm a Porsman, Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast, it's like the assorted candy jar that Evan raids before we start recording each episode that I have in my house. A lot of different news. The Red Wings played a altogether underwhelming game against the LA Kings, which there are a couple storylines out of there. Pat Verbeek has left the Detroit Red Wings to go be GM of the Anaheim Ducks. There's some kind of related All-Star game as we head into the All-Star break news, especially relevant to the Red Wings. We are finally, as Evan has been clamoring for a long time, going to be talking about the prospect profiles. 2022 draft.
Wow, February 3rd.
Yeah.
That might be a record.
It is, but I'll say this. I think we delayed. I think we could have started it earlier and it would have been justified.
Yeah, but no negativity, only vibes.
And then there's a Chicago Blackhawks owner with the last name...
Chicago Blackhawks embarrassed themselves again.
And that was even before the Chiarelli rumor came out.
Which... Don't threaten me with a good time, NHL.
Forget the Coyotes, move the Blackhawks.
A NHL owner, a Blackhawks owner with the last name WIRTZ'S that isn't Dollar Dollar Bill is in the news for all the wrong reasons. Mixed bag episode. We'll see how it goes. Before we get into that, the Jamie Daniels Foundation. We're really, really proud to support them. And one way we do so is through the Wings Money on the Board campaign that we started in partnership with our good friend Prashanth Iyer. So if you want to know more about that, how you can support the Jamie Daniels Foundation, which was founded by Ken Daniels and Lisa Daniels Goldman, through watching the Red Wings, making pledges, good, bad, negative, big, small, whatever you want to do. Go to wingedwheelpodcast.com/blog and click on the post about Wings Money on the Board. And of course, visit jamiedanielsfoundation.org if you want to learn more about what they do, their mission, and how you can support them. Okay, the Detroit Red Wings. You know what? Actually, as I edit episodes, I try to find the different points for when the topic switches because I put it in the description. And without fail, every time I can find it because I go, all right, or okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I hate that. I have to try to change it.
I do that at work all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. When there's all of a sudden dead air, I'm like, all right.
You're one of those?
Yeah.
I feel like Evan uses the phrase "as per my last email" a lot.
No, actually, because I feel like I never know what's going on at work.
Aren't you in charge of things there?
Yeah, but I get way too in the weeds, and the people who really know the technical stuff, I'm just like, why did I do this? And now I don't understand anything. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
All right. The Red Wings played a game against the LA Kings. Tell me if you've heard this one before. The LA Kings had dominated them in terms of shots and on ice play and won the game.
The Red Wings at least scored this time.
The Red Wings did at least score this time. And you know what? It wasn't a travesty that that one game was. That was one of the worst games of the year. That's where, like, at one point they were projected to have like 80 shots against or something like that. They still did have, 45 shots against, which is not good. I will say, if you like your goalie and you care about them as people emotionally and physically, do not let 45 shots on goal on them. Credit to Ned, man. 40 saves on 43 shots. Two of the LA shots were on empty nets.
Well, it's only fair because they gave him the night off on Monday. If you ever wanted the poster for how the Red Wings are consistently inconsistent, it's having 2 games in 3 days and giving up 15 shots and then 45 shots.
Right. I actually forgot about the game on Monday, too.
Yeah, everybody did. The Red Wings won, which is great, but it was not a memorable game.
Yeah, it was the OT winner, won by none other than Jordan Osterley. At one point in that game, that I was thinking, Brad's asleep. This is a snooze fest. Brad is definitely out cold for this one. Let's actually talk about that game first. Sorry. We'll jump back to the LA game. So, I mean, Gustav Lindstrom powerbombing, Steele into the end boards.
Oh yeah. He killed him.
Those ones hurt a lot.
I felt that one at home before I actually saw it on video.
That's one of those ones you can't even brace for it as the player getting hit. And yeah, it's the worst.
Gustav Lindstrom, I'm not saying should be talked about more because I don't want to, build him up to be something he's not. But Gustav Lindstrom has done exactly what we had hoped he would do when we first saw him kind of crack the Red Wings lineup as the 6th, 7th defenseman a little while ago. He has been solid. He has been very, very solid. I think not every Red Wings player needs to have like all guns firing, shoot pucks at the net, only offense. And for a defensive core that is, lacking defense quite a bit, I really appreciate Gustav Lindstrom's game.
I liked what I've seen from Lindstrom this year, but I feel like we've had this exact conversation about 37 different defensemen.
Is this Alexei Marchenko conversation?
No.
Yeah, which iteration is this?
No, I don't think that's fair. Because
to Gustav Lindstrom, it's absolutely not fair, but I've been hurt before.
I think it's easy to pick polarizing examples, but Gustav Lindstrom is a good example of a run-of-the-mill, hey, this guy is young and could be a good part of your depth. Don't build him up to be something he's not, but a solid piece who I think is very fair as a good third pairing guy. And hey, in a spot of injury, and if he plays with the right defensive pairing, number 4 man, a guy on the second pair for a little while, don't stick him on the power play or anything. He's rock solid back there.
Oh, I too am a big fan of Gustav.
No, they're not the same players though.
But I'm not saying they're the same players, but god damn does this conversation feel very familiar.
Brad, every conversation feels familiar. You talk on a hockey podcast twice a week.
We've recycled
It's been
4 to 6 pairing defensemen for 7 years.
And I'm saying
it's been 7 years, Ryan.
And I'm saying he might be the guy who isn't so easily recycled and out the door. He could be a mainstay and someone reliable for a little while here.
He absolutely looks like he could be. He's been good this year.
Both of you are getting coal for Christmas.
I hope so.
That's a cheap fuel source.
Listen, I have nothing bad to say about Gustav Lindstrom. Love his season. Love his puck movement. Love his defensive awareness.
Yeah.
The physicality was surprising.
This is great. We're going to move on. That Zadina to Larkin play, that did 2 things for me. One is, I get that Zadina's had a rough year, and it's not all been bad luck. A lot of it's been on him. But, man, is it easy to break out of funks when you can just give a puck to Dylan Larkin, and he does that, It
was a big moment for the just put Zadina on the top line crowd.
Yeah.
He got it for 15 seconds and got a primary assist.
Yeah. And it was a nice pass. It was a good read. He saw Larkin streaking up the ice. Let's not take away from the fact that Larkin used his world-class speed in a gorgeous backhand finish. That was smooth. That was a quick, Larkin is near automatic on breakaways now.
Yeah, and that was against a world-class goaltender, too. I had to die laughing because, obviously, we've seen that very simple, yet very well-timed and executed pass from Filip Zadina to hey, all you need to do is hit one of the fastest players in the world at the right time in the neutral zone and let him do the rest. Mm-hmm. And then someone sends us a video this morning on Twitter of Danny DeKeyser looking off Dylan Larkin in the exact same situation to put it over to Hronek just to get it back and fire it off the glass.
I haven't seen the clip, but I can picture exactly what you're saying. So it happens 10 times a game.
So we say it's a simple play, and it is, but that doesn't make it automatic. So the fact that Zadina recognized it and hit it is definitely a victory.
Big theme of that game between Anaheim and Detroit was, hey, here are your 3 most likely Calder candidates. If you want to count Anton Lundell, 3 of 4, playing in one game with Seider, Raymond, and Trevor Zegras. And there was actually a moment between Zegras and Seider where there was a puck kind of that Zegras had to reach for, and him and Seider both went for it at the same time. And I think this shows how skilled Zegras is, because Seider committed to the puck, which as a defenseman, it's not like you always take the body if you think you can break up a play by taking the puck that the forward doesn't have control of. You do it, or you try. But Zegras just pulled it around Seider so quickly. I was like, ooh. And then Seider swung around, used his long stick, and actually broke up the play. So just caught him. But that was a cool little one-on-one moment there.
Yep. And Zegras' team had 15 shots on net. Mo Seider's team got the win. So there's the tiebreaker. Mo Seider is your Calder winner. Thank you. I will hear no further arguments.
Zegras held to 0 shots that game. Terry was held to about 1 or 2. I think so. It was a good effort from Detroit, like you said.
Their best defensive effort of the season.
Yeah. There was that Hronek goal that was waved off. I have no idea what a kicking motion is. I think the NHL has moved towards goaltender interference where they just don't know what their own rules are. Like, I've seen way more flagrant kicks count as redirections. And Hronek seemed like it was a redirection and it bounced off his other ankle and went in. I really thought that one would go in. Ken was actually so firm with Mick, and like Mick was saying, I don't know, they might call us back. And Ken was like, no, that's a goal. That's a goal by every way they've called it. And then they come out and take it back. I was shocked.
Any slightest bit of foot movement and it gets waved out. And Hronek's foot wasn't completely stationary. So I wasn't surprised is the right word. It's one of those ones, for me, it's more, I hate the rule, the way the rule's written more so than the way it was called.
Yeah.
Because I'm a believer, if your skate blade doesn't leave the ice, therefore it's not a danger to anybody in the crease or around you, it should count. But it's not the way the rule's written. So the fact that his foot just did that ever so slight little flick, not much, barely in real time, not noticeable at all. But the way the rule's written, that's the rule.
That's like me with offside. That's what Brad is right now about about kicking.
Yeah, and when I argue, what do I always say? Oh, I hate the rule, not the way it's enforced.
I don't listen when you say anything.
That's fair.
It does not register to memory. Game went to OT. Jordan Osterley rips it home past one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. I think, it's awesome to see a guy who doesn't score a lot get a winner in such a big moment like that.
Wasn't that his first goal as a Red Wing?
First goal as a Red Wing. First goal in a ton of games, like in a long, long time. But how happy the team was.
Oh, yeah.
Raymond was literally jumped in the air. Moritz Seider jumped. The whole team was so thrilled for him. And that game put Detroit at 20 wins, which in 46 games, and last season, 19 wins in 56 games total. So they have already passed last season's win total.
It was a big night for Osterley. It was his second primary point of the night.
Shut up. That was good redemption because he's...
Oh, yeah. He was not playing the next game if he did not score that goal.
He hasn't looked... You're going to get a lot of exposure. I mean, we rip on Danny DeKeyser a lot. Any player who's not a top pairing player is going to be exposed in one way or another playing on that top line with Seider. And he had that even against the LA game, which we'll jump to here. There was a moment where he got caught looking turnaround. Like I said before, when you get lost as a defenseman, if you're a step behind, your whole shift is ruined, and you were going to look like a big dumb dummy out there.
And don't make passes through the middle of the ice in your own zone.
No, don't do that.
Not recommended. Nick Leddy can attest.
So the Red Wings against LA, like we mentioned, it was a game that LA largely dominated. It looked for a second that Detroit might have something because the Zadina Ernie Rasmussen line had a great shift. It started with a big Zadina defensive play in his own zone, turned around. The puck went down the ice. There's a shot on goal by Zadina, and Rasmussen was there to bury it. And Rasmussen had a couple other moments in the offensive zone in the game where I was like, oh man, Rasmussen, this is great. He almost looked surprised that the puck was still on his stick after attempting a dangle.
Yeah, like I said, he has no playmaking, but he can make things happen because he's got good puck skills. Like he had, even I think it was the shift or two before his goal, he had one where he circled the offensive zone and did kind of, from the top of the circle, the Austin Matthews like curl and release through the defenseman, and it almost caught Quick off guard, and it like hit him, just barely caught his left shoulder. I'm like, oh, that's new.
Yeah.
Do that more. And then, yeah, got rewarded a couple shifts later, but hey, don't look now. Point streak for Zadina. So three in his last 4, 2 in a row.
3 in his last 4. And that's important for confidence. Like, it's not a lot, but it's good for confidence. Yeah. Tyler Bertuzzi had one of his classic tip-ins. And, but I still think the story of the night was the 2 fights, Fabri against Dursey, where Fabri could have thrown one of the best right hands that the team has seen all year, but obviously not a fighter, so there wasn't a lot of power behind it, but also probably for the best because you don't want him to hurt his hands. They're important for the team.
Yep. Don't want to kill the opponent.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, Gemel Smith, who made his debut for the Red Wings, without Giovanni, we haven't seen the brothers yet, but Gemel made his debut, and what does he do besides assisting on a goal? He fights Brendan Lemieux. And didn't even get bit, so good for him. He escaped harm. They called it out on the broadcast. Like, he did it right in front of the bench. He went after Lemieux.
Oh, yeah.
It was a statement.
Yeah, everybody hates Brendan Lemieux, so he's the easiest target for when you want to, I don't know if that's the initiation to your new team, but whatever you want to call it, his welcome to Detroit moment.
If you want to endear yourself to Red Wings fans, punch a Lemieux at Joe Louis Arena.
At home.
They'll love it. Yeah. Or do it on the road too, but at home brings a certain energy.
Yeah, if your only opportunity is on the road, you take it, but
yeah.
In front of the very sparse home crowd as everybody was snowed in.
Yeah. It was a funny game, right? Like, I think this was firmly in LA's hand the entire time.
It was funny. I wasn't having fun. Were you having fun?
I don't know, man. I'm broken. I can have fun with anything.
There were fun moments.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it looked like it was in LA's hand the entire time, and like Bertuzzi's tip brought it back into play, and then they, scored an empty net goal, and Veleno finally fired home a goal after 18 games without, pulled the string, or I think they called it a yo-yo on the broadcast, which was right, and that brought it back within play. They scored an empty net goal again, and LA ended up winning 5-3, but still, improvement from the last LA game.
If that's how it works.
We could have put you out there, and that would have been improvement from the last LA game.
That is true.
Yeah. Of all the things we mentioned, it's most notable. That game would not have been remotely as close without Alex Nedeljkovic. Plain and simple. He hasn't had the best of months, but he's looked like he looked good that night.
You know how in the NFL, at the end of the season, a quarterback will buy his entire offensive line like Rolexes or something as a thank you for saving his ass?
Yeah.
I don't think Nedeljkovic is doing that for the defense.
No, sure. I think the defense should buy him an entire O-line's worth of Rolexes.
Yeah, legitimately.
Just like the inverse. Announced in the... So that's the game review. The Red Wings are now on a break while the All-Star game happens this weekend. And their next game back is Wednesday, February 9th against Philly. So our next episode's Sunday, and then we're going to be doing another Thursday midweek after that. Ovi missing the All-Star game. I mean, if it's a real or not positive test, I'm sure he's happy that he doesn't have to go. He's paid his dues. He's made the All-Star game fun plenty of times. Let the guy get his rest so he can continue his goal for Gretzky's record.
Hey, and he was giving the fans what they wanted, which was Tom Wilson at the All-Star game.
Yes, but unironically. Only if he fights people during the actual game.
That's what he should do. He just stands at the center ice. They throw the lights down, put a little fog on the ice, and whoever wants to fight him comes out from the dressing room, and he just has a
it's only a 3-hour broadcast, Evan. It's not feasible.
Him and Ryan Reeves fight at center ice.
I think him and Panarin.
Oh, God.
I'll put it on record now that if Tom Wilson runs around the entire All-Star game trying to hit people, he will move into my top 5 favorite players in the NHL. If he's the one who makes the All-Star game watchable, eternal respect.
Him and Brad Marchand are trying to go for the biggest heel in the NHL right now.
I would respect it.
Just do it without being too shitty. Like, don't do anything like bad for humanity.
Maybe don't hit anybody in the head, but
yeah. Every good sport has a heel, but just Not too Healy. Larkin is going to be shooting to defend his title of fastest player. He's going to be in the
He has to go against Timo Meier, right?
Timo Meier, man.
Fastest player in the NHL.
Best player in the NHL, right?
And the fastest.
According to ESPN. What was it, the stat? He got clocked as the
highest top speed this year.
It's funny because Timo Meier is having a phenomenal year and he's a phenomenal player. But just because of that one thing that's said on the broadcast, where like, it's become a meme, but he's a really good player. It's true. But now we have to joke about Timo Meier, the best overall player in the NHL. Is that what they said?
He's going to win.
The best all-around player in the NHL.
Well, I'm happy that Larkin gets to compete and remind people that he does currently hold the fastest time in All-Star Game history. But we'll see what happens this weekend. In addition to that, I thought it was really funny that they have that new competition where the players are going to be shooting at cards to try and make blackjack because it's in Vegas. It's a whole casino thing. And I think that's cool as hell. I think that's awesome. But as multiple people...
Why are they doing that?
Because it's in Vegas.
No, I mean, like, do they win something? Like, what the hell's the point?
Depends how much they bet on it.
What's the point of any of the All-Star Game, man?
I actually don't know.
Who's shooting for the dealer?
This is getting
the worst game of blackjack ever.
So do they win? Do they win anything?
I don't know, man.
Are they allowed to double if they get an 11 first?
Or do they split?
I'm gonna murder both of you.
What if what if Buddy shoots 2 8s? I'm not shooting unless I'm allowed to split it after that.
Did you plan this?
No. But I need answers. I actually want answers.
Does the blackjack?
What the hell is the point of this thing? Other than
if someone actually shoots a blackjack, do they get paid out the 6-5, or is it just count as one win?
Brad is a degenerate, by the way.
Yeah, he really is.
I don't gamble much, but I do enjoy it.
This is from Greg Wyshynski. The player who wins 2 rounds is crowned Puck Shark.
Oh my God.
This
is the most NHL event of all time.
What do you want them to win?
Is that just a Wyshynski joke, or is that what the NHL's officially crowning this player?
I can't tell. I can't tell what's real and what's not anymore.
The fact that I don't immediately know the answer pisses me off because that is ridiculous.
Reluctantly, after some awkward editing that I'm sure you just listened to, we're back at the Windwheel Podcast. I'm not talking about the All-Star Game anymore. You're both cut off.
This is a professional podcast for sure.
You're both cut off.
Anyways, back to the point you would like to make about the naming.
No,
the team name.
I'm done. Oh, right. Yes.
Oh. So no, I'm done. Right. Yeah. That point I've wanted to make all day.
The NHL didn't let the Vegas expansion team, when they were picking a name, use the Las Vegas Aces because they didn't want something associated with gambling. But it would have been cool because it's obviously associated with Vegas and fully wanted a military connection. And there's ostensibly some kind of connection with the Air Force there. It would have been awesome. It would have been a better name than the Golden Knights. The only good thing to come out of the Golden Knights name is the jerseys, which are admitted.
If their jerseys sucked, everyone would hate them.
Oh, it would be terrible. The Washington Commanders.
It's a choice.
It's
a choice.
It is. It just barely meets the sufficient requirements for a choice. It doesn't even have a real logo. Anyways, but instead we got.
Hey, it's the only W they're going to see most Sundays.
Yeah. How long were you sitting on that one?
It literally just came in.
We have the Golden Knights now, and the NHL is shooting for blackjack at the All-Star Game. It's like, I think that's a sweet skills competition thing. I think that's fun. And you get crowned Puck Shark.
That's the next stupidest thing to whatever they did last year.
Why do you want them to win stuff? They're millionaires already. What do you want?
Because then they might care and not be so shit-faced when they do the event.
Anyhow, Pat Verbeek, Red Wings assistant general manager up until today. He's leaving. Got hired for the Anaheim job after Murray left. So that search is over. They've hired Pat Verbeek, the little ball of hate, as he's well known as in Detroit. Followed Yzerman for basically Yzerman's entire professional tenure as an executive in the NHL. So went from Detroit to Tampa Bay with him, and when he left Tampa Bay, came back with him to Detroit. So functionally, the Red Wings lose an assistant general manager, and the Grand Rapids Griffins lose a GM, because that was Verbeek's role that he took on summer of last year. I think it was made official. So the Lindstrom hiring probably, I don't want to say is directly related to it. I don't think Lindstrom's roles are going to be that of an AGM, But in terms of Yzerman stocking up the brain trust and building out, the executive team, Lindstrom's probably just the beginning, and we're going to see a little bit more now that Verbeek's on the go. Because Yzerman only ever had great things to say with him, and to bring him to a new team twice, it goes to show how much he trusted him.
When good people are leaving.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
It's actually a sign of a good organization, right? Like, look at the brain drain from Bill Belichick in the NFL over the years. And
I cannot relate to that, but okay.
Or the brain drain from the Red Wings in their dominant era.
Oh, okay.
The late 90s, early 2000s, before everything happened with Mike Babcock. A lot of people, anything remotely associated with Mike Babcock.
He was also considered brain drain at the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
Because he got poached, basically.
He got poached, yeah. But it's a sign of a good organization. Good people get hired and they move up, and it means you're doing something right. So you just have to trust that
we're not paying them enough.
Well, you're never going to pay an AGM what a GM could get paid. Right?
Yeah, I would think so.
So it makes sense that he left. So we're going to see what's on the docket next for Detroit.
My God, that's Chris Draper's music.
He's already an AGM.
More prominent one now. He's going to get the Griffins.
You think so?
Principal,
I don't know.
I
literally
general
don't know.
Manager.
Principal, executive assistant, general manager. No, Drapes is heading amateur scouting. So
it would make sense to have a Grand Rapids connection there then.
That's probably too much work.
Yeah, they could always redistribute the duties.
The important thing to note is that there's no hard lines on how many AGMs you have to have, who's got to do what. Someone does have to manage the Griffins.
Someone has to pay their salary too. You don't have all the 50 people doing the same job, making the same decisions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We never really get an insight into that. That's like the back end of hockey.
I'll let you know when I get the job.
Yeah. Yeah,
Throw
please.
my name in there.
Bullshit, you're taking that pay cut.
I have to move to America.
That's why he was so concerned about paying Verbeek like a GM rather than an AGM. He's like, "Whoa, wait, what? They make how little?" Anyhow, that's what's up next for the Red Wings. We'll see how that goes. Best of luck to Verbeek with the Ducks. Hey, you want to trade us some stuff?
We'll take one Hampus Lindholm.
Yeah,
actually, you know what? Don't trade him. Just don't sign him, please.
The joke from everyone was like, all right, send us Trevor Zegras for cheap. No, but realistically, though, let us have Lindholm.
Don't sign him.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. We'll see what happens. Before we get into our next topic here, I do want to tell everyone that this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast is proudly brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, a sponsor that finally gives us hockey fans what we really want, even more excitement in the game. There's so many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They're easy to use, from registrations to deposits and finding your perfect bet. Their withdrawals are quick and easy. FanDuel pays your winnings back in as little as 24 hours, and they're constantly running odds boosts and specials every day with some big super boosts each weekend. Now listen to this. FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Just place a bet on any game and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win that bet. No strings attached. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose, you'll get that $1,000 back in site credit. We want you to download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started with a risk-free bet of up to $1,000, and be sure to sign up with promo code WWP so they know the Winged Wheel podcast sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code WWP. You must be 21 and older and present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Iowa, Tennessee, Virginia, or Michigan. First online real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Virginia, Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-270-7117 in Michigan. It's time. Prospect profiles. I think
the Kings broke us.
Oh, yeah. They did it once, and we're like, all right, Kings, if you wallop us just one more time, we're going to do prospect profiles. And they're like, all right, bet.
Speaking of the Kings, did you see someone in our Discord mention Los Kings? There's an actual jersey.
Yeah, there is. We were laughing about it, but that's a real thing that they did.
I knew that.
Did you?
No.
Yeah, no, you did not. You absolutely did not. Although I do appreciate that we were all stupid enough to laugh at that moment.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah.
I had a good laugh.
So for those of you who are new to the show, first of all, if this is your first episode, dear God, am I sorry. Secondly, one thing that we've done pretty much since the inception of the show because of who the Red Wings have been as a team is dedicate a large amount of airtime to scouting next NHL Draft prospects. Our prospect profiles are something that we try to do every episode leading up to the draft, where we cover one or two guys, typically just one, especially those that may likely be relevant to the Detroit Red Wings. So
starting there.
What we've tried to do is kick off with the marquee.
This is the warm-up one. Get our brains back into the swing of it.
The biggest name is also the easiest one to do. And we picked that marquee prospect to cover. And so today's prospect profile is none other than I'm kidding. Shane Wright.
Who did we start with last year? Was it Owen Power? No.
Yes,
was it?
It was Owen Power. The year before was Lafreniere. Yeah. Yeah, we've done it.
Yep, and they've all ended up as Red Wings, just like we hoped.
And so we're inevitably cursing Detroit to not even come close to first overall.
At least this year, the pain will be less because we already understand there's no chance.
Speaking of no chance, let's talk about it. Shane Wright, who is he as a player? What's his year or last couple of years been like, and where would he fit in on the Red Wings?
Completely average, middle six center at best. No.
Loathe you. You are maxed out this episode.
Thank you. Shane Wright. So he is not your prototypical number one overall pick, in the sense that when you watch him, he's not going to blow you away. And I'm noticing that as this season goes on, and a lot of people actually start watching him because, most people have heard the name for the last couple of years, but he lost an entire season due to the pandemic. The season before that, he had a very strong season as a 15-year-old, but again, not that anybody other than a lot of the diehards were really actually watching him, even though they were aware of him. Now that it's his draft year, everybody in the hockey world has their eyes on him. Now that the Kingston Frontenacs are actually playing hockey this year, everybody has their eyes on him. Now that there was the 2 games in the World Juniors, people were watching. And unsurprising to some, his draft stock has fallen a bit. He's still the unanimous number 1 overall pick, but that gap between him and number 2 has shrunk. Even though, in my opinion, it shouldn't have. Because Shane Wright's that unique prospect in the sense that from a skating, puck handling, fancy trick shot type guy, he's not anything special. He's probably going to be an all right skater in the NHL. His puck skills are probably going to be good relative to the rest of the NHL, but not anything spectacular. He does have a really wicked shot. But a lot of guys can really shoot the puck. Now he just tends to do it with more accuracy than others. And can shoot from a lot of different angles, which is obviously a huge asset with how fast the NHL is. But what separates him is his brain. If you are unspectacular as a skilled player, there's got to be something that separates you. And for Shane Wright, that's his ability to process the play and understand what's going on at all times and having enough skill to make it happen when it does. He's also a hell of a competitor. He's one of those guys like a Dylan Larkin. He'll run through a wall to win a game if he has to. Not that their skill or playing styles are similar, but if you're struggling to understand what I'm talking about, think of Sidney Crosby. Not that Shane Wright is Sidney Crosby, but is Sidney Crosby an elite skater? No, not really. Is his shot anything special?
I will contest you. I think Crosby is.
He's really strong on his skates. It's hard to knock off the puck.
And his
edge work is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's not a skill that when you're watching him, you're going to go, oh my God, that just pops out every time he's on the ice, right? Like Connor McDavid's skating does, or hell, even Trevor Zegras'
Timo Meier skating ability.
Listen, Shane Wright's not Timo Meier. Settle down. But it's, you can break down Crosby's game and nothing pops about his skill set, but he's just pretty good at everything, but he just processes the game at a different level. That's Shane Wright to a lesser extent. So how well will that translate to the next level? Well, that's $1 million question. If everybody knew that with every prospect, there'd be no sense in even having a draft. You could just distribute them in order. But no, so that's what makes Shane Wright special. He had that goal against Oshawa a couple weeks ago where the puck was just going behind the net, but he saw the goalie was drawn out of the net. He had already kind of overskated the puck to really make a wraparound, so he just said, screw it, knocked the puck between his legs, off the goalie's leg and into the net. There's nobody else in junior is even thinking about that play. They are not, they might recognize that the goalie's out of position, but they're probably going to try and take the extra second to corral the puck and maybe turn it into a wraparound or something. Wright knew where the puck was, what his options were, and where the goalie was, and he scored a ridiculous goal out of it. My favorite part about Shane Wright's season is as soon as those, hey, maybe he's not the number one overall guy, conversations started happening because he had a pretty unspectacular start. He's just like, nah. And he's been on an absolute heater ever since.
Since the Lafreniere draft and how, Lafreniere and how Lafreniere has developed, I didn't think Lafreniere was going to come into the NHL and be an immediate, all-star. I thought Byfield probably was more NHL ready. I was pretty surprised by how quickly Tim Stützle took to the NHL, but still, I didn't think Lafreniere would be there year one, but I thought he'd be there by now. And it has me questioning a lot. I don't know. I don't know enough about his game and enough about what New York is doing because it reads funny to me that both Kakko and Lafreniere are maybe a little bit underwhelming. But it's caused a lot of distrust. So at that time where the Shane Wright stuff started to come out, I was like, everything I watch about Shane Wright and knowing all the context of his development and, not playing hockey for such a long period of time, it makes me think that this is all just kind of unfounded and a little bit overzealous and probably driving clicks more than anything. But it still gave me enough to pause. Watching Shane Wright's game, though, is like, it's like asking Steve Yzerman today, this day, February 3rd, 2022, and say, hey, build out within reason the perfect prospect for the Red Wings right now. He'd pick a centerman who plays at 110% at all times, can get in the dirty area, will drive the slot, can shoot the puck, finish from in close or shoot from distance, and actually has decent skating, puck skills, but thinks the game better than anyone else. Because what is that? It's a number one center. And that's what I think Shane Wright can be. I'm not going to go out here making guarantees. That's something I'm going to do this year, is not make guarantees. But Shane Wright is not without flaw. No NHL prospect is. He's kind of the archetype of exactly what, or he's the typical prospect of exactly what the Red Wings need right now.
He is. And, like you were mentioning with Lafreniere, the fear with Shane Wright is that when the pace picks up, he won't pick up the pace. And as we've seen with Lafreniere, that seems to be the struggle. And it's a reasonable concern with Shane Wright. Could happen. It's also worth pointing out that I forgot to mention, he lost an entire year of development. He did not play hockey for a year because he didn't go to Europe when the OHL shut down, and he played 5 games in the U18s, which he even missed a couple games in that tournament because he got sick in the middle of it. Shane Wright did not play a lot of hockey for, God, it almost feels like, was it 15, 16 months? He played 5 games, and people were concerned about a slow start. If he didn't have a slow start, I'd be concerned that the robot uprising has started and he's going to be the leader. So it's all within context. And now that the season's progressed and he got half a season under his belt and now all of a sudden he's on a tear, it doesn't feel like any of that should have been unexpected.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are concerned about Shane Wright. I'm not very. My biggest concern with Shane Wright is, how's he going to do downgrading an arena size next year?
I don't know. I don't think Arizona.
Be low pressure.
The NHL should rig the draft lottery so he doesn't go to Arizona. For the first time ever, I want them to rig the draft lottery.
Yeah, but you know who the next worst team is?
Buffalo.
Montreal.
Oh, God.
I'd rather him play in another junior rink than
Oh, you
Montreal.
meant next worst team actually right now in the NHL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant
I think it's Arizona, Montreal, the bottom two.
At least Montreal, he wouldn't disappear into a black hole. How many people have not watched enough Connor McDavid because of the time of night he's on? I'm not saying Western Conference teams don't deserve to have good players. That's not it at all. But in terms of the NHL wanting to advertise their stars.
I mean, Lafreniere's in New York playing on one of the biggest market teams.
Yeah.
Aren't they the most valuable team in the NHL?
Probably.
Yeah. So he's more in kin with that than McDavid in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Personally, as a Red Wings fan, whenever the Red Wings don't get the top prospect in a draft, I want him as far away from Detroit as possible.
So you actually want him in the middle of the desert?
Yes.
Joke's on you. He'd play in Arizona and they can move to Quebec.
Yeah, divisional realignment. Columbus is going back to the West, and we're moving the Coyotes right back into the...
Yeah. So if you heard all this about Shane Wright and you don't want them to... And you want him to be a reality for the Red Wings, you have to hope they don't finish anywhere close to the playoffs to be able, under the new lottery rules, to be able to move up and get him. The lottery odds have all changed, and the amount of spots you can move up have all changed. So yeah, the Detroit Red Wings are the Red Wings are sitting 21st of 32 teams. So they technically
that's not bad.
They're not far off.
How strong is the West? Because the Red Wings are 9th in the East.
There's only one team behind them with a better points percentage. Yeah, there's only one team behind them with a better points percentage. So if you go off points percentage, they're actually 22nd. So they're within range, but they'd be one of the lowest odd teams right now. They're teetering on the bubble of you can plausibly dream of getting Shane Wright. So
they're in the top 10, hopefully.
Hey, we'll see how the trade deadline changes things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Winnipeg is below Detroit,
by points percentage, they're higher. They just have fewer games played.
Okay, so that's most likely going to change.
Half of the bottom 6 teams are in our division. Damn it!
Well, that's what happens when half the division is at the top of the league.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It tends
very fair.
It tends to separate. Any additional thoughts on Shane Wright as a player? Never mind the likelihood of the Red Wings getting him or not.
I would say his floor is exceptionally high, I think.
You think so?
I don't think he's ever going to blow the doors off at the NHL level, but I think he will be a for sure second-line player in the NHL.
So you don't see him as a first-line center?
He would have to go on an absolute heater for the rest of the year for me to really feel that way. I will have to see if Kingston plays either in Guelph or in Kitchener before the end of the year.
Oh, you need like the within.
I can go ISO cam.
Yeah.
If only there was a top prospects game that the CHL hosted, and maybe one year we'll get lucky and it'll be in Kitchener, and we can get like 5th row tickets. Yeah,
but it's different when they're playing with guys who are like the cream of the crop. I want to see them on just a regular game day playing with their regular line mates in a regular game.
No, I want to see Shane Wright against all the top prospects in the CHL, because this will be a faster pace than a typical OHL game. So it will give a good idea of where he's at in terms of pace of play.
Evan Lobsinger, the truest purveyor of the eye test. He needs his eyes to be in the building.
I do.
Man, that is perfect. That is the antithesis of Brad. No, I'm kidding. I don't know why. I label. You're not like
I'm the big analytics guy here, eh?
Yeah. Shane Wright, center out of Kingston in the OHL. Not so much the definite first overall. This guy could be McDavid, player that he was touted to be in the past, but still probably in our collective minds the definite first overall pick this year, unless something drastic happens. Within range for the Red Wings will remain to be seen. So for you tankers, Shane Wright is who you're rooting for.
He has the opportunity to carry the torch of strong Detroit Red Wings second line centers who wear the number 51.
Well, 51's going to be in the rafters before
Valtteri Filppula. He was 51, right?
Yeah.
He's going to go up and announce the pick.
And Franz Nielsen. Let's not
put
any disrespect on his name.
Flag bearer for Finland in the Olympics.
That's okay. I'm not watching the Olympics.
Well, yeah, it's happening at 4 a.m.
Yeah, I found out the Olympics started last night as I was flipping through the channels. I was falling asleep and stumbled across the Canada-Switzerland game. And I'm like, what is this hockey? Is that... Oh, that's today. And then I saw Melody Dow basically get crushed and probably knocked out of the tournament. And then woke up to the news that Brianna Decker is also out of the tournament. So the Olympics are already canceled.
I think they were a long time ago. Okay. The Chicago Blackhawks. And that's our take on the Chicago Blackhawks. aside from interviewing Peter Chiarelli for the GM job, which from the bottom of my heart, I encourage you to do, Chicago. Please, I know a lot has gone wrong for you, but in my absolute objective opinion, I think this is what's best for hockey fans is for Peter Chiarelli to run the Blackhawks. And hey, you know what? Don't even give him any help. I don't want anyone else hired. Give him full autonomy over hockey ops.
Do we get Alex DeBrincat for Nick Leddy, or do we got to throw in a mid-round pick?
You absolutely have to throw in one Danny DeKeyser to make that work. For the veteran presence in the room. That's what you have to do. Or you promise a Michael Rasmussen. You say, hey, 9th overall pick, better than wherever DeBrincat was drafted.
Chiarelli only does one for once.
Rasmussen for DeBrincat.
Don't give away any more than you have to, Ryan.
Hronik for DeBrincat.
You say that,
I say that, but outside of making fun of Chicago for doing the NHL requisite, you have to talk to Peter Chiarelli. They love him. The NHL brass loves him, and they just keep injecting him into these conversations. And some poor fan base that already hates Gary Bettman is now going to hate him more because Gary Bettman's trying so damn hard to get Chiarelli a job. Anyhow, other than all of that, Chicago had an event that was being watched, live streamed on like Twitter, YouTube, etc.
Was it a season ticket holder event or something?
They called it a town hall, whatever that means.
That means they just give you an update on what's going on in the organization.
Yeah. And then you take questions from reporters. But you announce the town hall weeks in advance. So you have tons of time to prepare answers for any and all likely questions to be thrown at you. So in Rocky's defense, a question like that, just out of left field.
This is similar to when, didn't Edmonton do something similar, and then Chiarelli or who was the head of their hockey ops?
That time, Nicholson?
Yeah, he said they weren't winning because who was
Toby Reeder had 0 goals.
Because Tobias Reeder had no goals. Just threw him under the bus.
Reeder's standing there like, what?
Why me?
Anyhow, it was a press event, and Mark Lazarus asked a question, which was followed up later by Phil Thompson of the Chicago Tribune. But Mark Lazarus asked a question, which I mean this when I say, I'm not just saying this to make Rocky Wirtz look bad, but he asked a question that was a softball. It was a lob to the team for them to give a good cookie cutter press prepared answer. He was essentially asking, in light of everything that happened with the Kyle Beach situation, what changes have you made, and what are you going to do moving forward to ensure it doesn't happen again? That's a simplification, but that was a question in general.
I think it was something about empowering players to come forward if a similar situation arose.
It wasn't someone else about to answer the question.
It was his son.
It was Danny Wirtz, who the question was directed at.
Yeah, it was his son and Danny Wirtz, by all rights, has been doing and saying the right things about this. He really wants to change the culture of the team and get them back to not just winning, but bring it back to, first of all, a non-criminal, but a positive culture, like a work environment. And Rocky, the owner, blew his lid. Rocky Wirtz is Danny Wirtz's dad. Blew his lid at this question. Absolutely lost his damn mind. At one point, he said, it's not your business. If you worked for this company and you asked, I would tell you, but it's not your business. Why is it any of your business? And I actually yelled at my phone. I said, sir, you own an entertainment company. Whether you like it or not, you sell tickets for entertainment. People come to be entertained in your facilities by your product, which is the NHL team. It is exactly their business. And he lost his mind. And Danny Wirtz tried jumping in and saying, after Rocky had already embarrassed himself, their already non-existent PR group they had rubbed holes through their temples by this point. Danny tried coming in and saying something, and his dad, Rocky, shut him down and said, no, we're not engaging with this, essentially. We don't have to tell you. Good for Mark Lazarus for standing up for himself and trying to follow up, and then good for Phil Thompson for following up as well. And Rocky Wirtz doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on his idiocy, and man, the world has been divided for a long time now, and near every issue that's hit hockey has kind of brought into light that division. You can find but the other side for pretty much any argument that you think you're on the right side of. But seeing everybody from every corner of the hockey world galvanized around the fact that Chicago and Rocky Wirtz absolutely suck. It just really reaffirms how stupid he was to do what he did that day.
You didn't have to, like, it is not really the reporter's business to know, but it's such a softball, easy thing to answer that doesn't matter. Like, you can give the easiest, most, like, out of the cookie cutter answer of all time. And then we're moving on to the next question.
The answer would have been like any press release. It would have changed nothing or meant nothing. They didn't even have to mean it, but they could have answered it. But I'll contest
You
what
could
you
have just said, yep.
I think it is. That's a reporter's job to bring these things to light. I think hockey fans care about this, and Chicago season ticket holders and, ticket buyers and people who come and buy jerseys and merch and who have dedicated their time and money to this team. I think they deserve to know. I think it is their business. And I think reporters like Lazarus and, Phil Thompson, that's the venue into it, right? That's the avenue to ask those questions. And again, it was a softball.
Yeah, that's only my real point. Like, it's a privately owned entity. If they want to drive their value into the ground, that's clearly they don't care if they do, and it's clearly just a toy. But I'm saying, like,
legally, yeah, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to do a damn thing. He could just pull out his pants, take a shit, which probably would have been better.
Are you sure that's not what he did?
I'm not.
Would have been higher. Jeez.
But yeah, it's such like an easy thing to be like, we're taking these steps, we're bringing in this, we're going to bring in these groups to ensure that we've created an inclusive environment and blah 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 blah. Like, it could have been, it's literally the easiest answer you could have given of all time. I just made that up he could as I was saying it.
He could have literally
You're hired.
He could have literally walked up and said, we have an open door policy. People can approach us at any time. We encourage it, and we've given every staffer our contact info if they need us. Next question.
Yeah. We've come up with 7 different answers in 5 minutes.
And none of them are good, but they're better than that.
Yeah. Exactly.
One of mine was taking a dump.
Lazarus essentially asked him, hey, what are the vibes going to be moving forward? And they managed to mess
fuck you.
Like, legitimately. And we're laughing, but it's messed up, man. Like, what happened in Chicago is one of the worst things to happen.
Yeah, when you put the whole context to it, it's if it was like, they didn't pay a guy because now he's got, I don't know, if it was anything else, it would have been like, okay, but it was like the worst thing that's ever happened in hockey.
Yeah, like, this isn't hockey we're talking about. Like, this is humanity.
They ruined someone's life.
Yeah.
This whole situation, to just put an emphasis on the absurdity of it, was a team got in real trouble because a really bad thing happened that at the time was not the team's fault. But then they covered it up. They didn't want to talk about it, thus making it the team's fault and everything problem. And his answer was, yeah, we're not talking about it. My guy, this is what you got in trouble for.
The thing we didn't talk about, we're not going to talk about anymore.
Rocky, is that answer not a little too on the nose for the situation? Like, a lot of times we exaggerate things on the podcast and on social media, and everybody does the same thing. We'll say, that was the worst goal any goalie's ever let in. That was the worst call in the history of officiating. I mean this literally. That might have been the worst answer in a hockey context or a hockey setting in the history of the NHL.
What was that Miss Universe or Miss America girl?
They asked her something about world peace or something, and she went on about like,
and the Iraq, and we're gonna get books for the.
That was better than this answer.
That was honestly better. She could have been Rocky Wirtz. How do we know that wasn't Rocky Wirtz?
Because it was too good of an answer.
Look, man. If you ever need proof that a PR statement is just not. I'm a very big, I'm big on, I don't actually give a shit about apologies. Not that I'm wronged often, but if someone has done something genuinely wrong, I actually don't care about apologies because they're meaningless to me. Yeah, you should go through the paces and recognize what you did wrong and say that. But
what's this guy like outside of these incidences?
So if the actions aren't there, he's not sorry, and there's what meaningful changes are going to be.
Is he known as being an asshole or like?
I mean, before this, much better than his dad.
Yeah, that's the thing. So his dad was arguably the worst owner in the NHL. when he was in charge.
Nearly lost
because
Chicago
he was
there.
like just a bad dude, or
Bad dude, bad owner, horrible business decisions. Like there was very few redeeming qualities.
You couldn't watch Chicago on TV.
So
I'm not kidding.
no, that wasn't a joke. He literally refused to put
But
it
did
on
you
local
want to?
television. Let's not forget the Hawks at one point I think had a lower attendance than the Phoenix Coyotes.
They were known as the biggest laughingstock in professional sports at one point.
So when he lost control and then eventually passed away, which not to make light of that, no matter who a person is, that always sucks. But Rocky and Danny, I think Danny came on later, but Rocky took over the team and all his bad policies, like of his father, he's like, no, to hell with that. We're revamping this team. And it turned the Hawks around. They won all the cups. They were a perennial powerhouse. Their fandom skyrocketed. They were filling the barn. So he was viewed as like, hey, man, this is the guy who saved the Hawks.
Okay.
So we didn't know
So
who
we're
he was.
repeating the cycle, really.
Yeah. So we knew him from a business standpoint was making tremendous decisions for the Hawks, and it was working really well. Now we know who he is as a person. And it's not good.
The shit apple doesn't fall far from the shit tree, Ricky.
You know what?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you're the owner of the team. Yeah, it's your prerogative to drive the value into the ground. Yeah, you can technically do this, this, and that. But professional sports leagues have special rights and privileges to put owners in their place when they're doing stuff that acts to the detriment of the league. And this is what's happening. Gary Bettman needs to be on the phone yesterday with Rocky Wirtz, telling him to shut the hell up.
I think I did see that there's going, this Bettman is going to address this. Whatever the hell that means, I have no idea, but
in a messed up way, I'm almost glad it happened because it reaffirms what a lot of people suspected. Chicago's not interested, or at least, Rocky Wirtz isn't interested in making this thing better. Rocky Wirtz is interested in making this thing go away. And there's a difference there.
Yeah. So this is a little more complex than that because from all accounts, Danny has seemed to have been interested in actually making a change, making this better. If nothing else, he's been saying the right things this entire time. He hasn't been running away from it, hasn't been denying it, hasn't been trying to sweep it under the wing. He goes, yeah, this is awful. We screwed up. And Danny's saying that, and Danny was not around at the time that it happened, but he's like, you know what? It happened. All we can do at this point is try to make things right. So again, what he was actually doing behind the scenes, we'll never know, but he was saying the right things. And then details of the civil suit were coming out and the Blackhawks were trying to have it thrown out and basically taking a pretty bad stance on it at the time. But that was just legalese. So there was still that gray area of, okay, weird, but sure, from a legal standpoint, whatever. You do what you can. Still feel scummy as all hell, but whatever. They continued to say the right things. And then they eventually settled with Kyle Beach. So whether or not you agreed with their tactics, they eventually offered Kyle something that he liked enough to cancel the civil suit and take their offer.
Just settle, yeah.
Okay, fair. So
it's his prerogative.
It was good enough. If it was good enough for Kyle, we have to accept Kyle's decision, so we'll take it as a positive. Okay. But we still had this huge gray area of do the Hawks actually care and are they actually doing the right things, or was that sweep it under the rug money? Well, we don't have to wonder anymore.
No, we don't.
We have clarity now, and unfortunately, it wasn't the answer we were hoping for.
It was always going to be about making it go away because the longer this is in the news, yeah, of course, the worse it is for the Hawks. But you know what? You lose all rights to say, hey, we're just a hockey team. Like, why are you holding us to the standard? When the kind of horrific abuse that happened to Kyle Beach happens in your organization. And then the stuff that happened after as a result of your organization's actions or lack thereof, you are no longer in the space where you can say, hey, not my circus, right? That's it. Like, this is now officially your issue to deal with. And like you said, Brad, you would have hoped. I wasn't hoping for them to come out and be the shining example of a hockey organization because no one who does what they've done to this point is. I was hoping for the bare minimum. And I think we are a long, long, long way away from that.
And not irony is not the right word, but the dumb part of this is we as a society, and I'll lump hockey fandom in as a society, We forget things very quickly. I haven't heard of Evander Kane's name in 3 days, and he got signed like last week. I don't remember the last time I seen a discourse on Twitter about the Kyle Beach incident. I don't remember the last time I saw anything about it on TV. For the most part, it had left the hockey consciousness because when the settlement was over, we're like, okay, that's done. Even though it shouldn't have left our mind.
It shouldn't be. It is.
That's just the way society works. Bad things happen. There's some kind of resolution. Everybody's like, okay, we don't have to talk about that anymore. We don't have to think about it. His answer was so bad, it made us bring it back. They had successfully made us forget about it by whatever that was, by settling, by not talking about it. Was
he Barbara Streisand himself?
Yeah, exactly. It was yesterday's news.
Yeah.
As much as it shouldn't have been, and as much as it shouldn't be going forward, it's going to happen again. But for this window of time now, this dumbass brought it right back to the forefront and only worsened our opinion on how the Hawks are handling it. So from a PR standpoint, from a human dignity standpoint, from a common fucking sense standpoint, he could not have handled this any worse. Like Evan mentioned earlier, if he had come out with the most fluff prepared statement for whenever that question came up, nobody would have, outside of Chicago, would have even known a town hall had happened. There would have been no news that anybody gave a shit about coming out of that. Instead, it's the biggest story in hockey the past 48 hours. Just absolute insane levels of stupidity and just evil.
For a sport with such terrible interviews, that was a bad time to give something candid.
Yeah, you know who's really happy about that interview? Ken Holland, because we haven't talked about Evander Kane.
Jim Matheson.
Yeah, Jesus.
Connor McDavid looks like Jimmy Kimmel compared to them.
Yeah, holy shit.
God.
Let's move on to overtime. Not because I want to stop this conversation, but just for the sake of time here. Overtime in this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. It's a midweek episode, so theirs are the questions that we will read out. Patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast if you want to help support the show and generally fuel the caffeine I need to edit episodes after we're done. Question here from Who's Your Dad? Not just because it's funny. Which of the Red Wings players, past or present, has or had the best beard?
Beard.
I'm not terribly familiar with the beards of old, I'll admit.
I'll take Mickey's mustache any day.
Mick's mustache is good. Hank's playoff beard is iconic.
Yeah.
Hank's properly trimmed, just perfection.
Yeah.
It didn't have that ridiculous factor that like a Joe Thornton's has, but it was just perfect. Underrated. Year in, year out, Brendan Shanahan's playoff goatee.
Oh, yeah.
The playoff goatee was clutch.
He could not get away with that today. Like
It's like the evil Eric Cartman goatee.
Yeah.
You remember that?
It was like, that's pure 90s. Like, past 2002, you cannot have that beard.
Doesn't Dylan Larkin have a goatee?
He does.
He grew it out over here now.
Okay, good for him.
It's not great, but it's there.
Larkin's like Brad. He's got the same kind of beard.
Yeah,
as Brad.
he's like, my goatee grows in really well. Out here is not so much. Larkin just leaned into it more than I ever let it.
Like Nick Leddy, he's hardly been a Red Wing, but is that your elbow?
Did you hear that?
Oh my God.
That sounded like a crushed pop can.
Do you need a doctor?
I might. Holy shit.
Nick Leddy has to, like, I don't think there's a comb that can make it through his beard without either breaking or setting on fire. All right. Connor Dukes says, how come I haven't heard anyone talk about Larkin potentially hitting 50 goals? Basically, he just needs to have a better second half than the first. Players get hot all the time. I'm saying Bert hits 40, Larkin 52, and Ned gets one. It's not impossible. Larkin is within like a 5-goal pace of 50 goals. Just remember, Larkin is on a heater right now.
And their schedule is only going to get more difficult.
I am not saying Larkin's overperforming and he's going to, crash down to earth or anything, but it is hard to bet on players in a second half turning it up even more after they are having a career year.
Especially as the games are going to get more meaningless as the season progresses.
It's going to be harder. If Larkin and Bertuzzi hit their paces as they are right now, I think we can all be over the moon about that. That means they've had a second better half than the first, because maintaining that over a full season is hard.
Especially as this schedule gets... They had the easiest schedule in the NHL in the first half and the toughest in the second, statistically speaking. So,
yeah. Large, the prophet of the towering behemoth, says, greetings, rub-a-dub-dubs. How do we solve the left-hand D position for the next season? Do we bring back Stahl, Leddy, another old guy? Potentially both Edvinsson and Johansson would be considered NHL ready, but is it ideal to bring them both on at the same time? Neither of them will have any reason to be put in the AHL, and both have proven themselves to be beyond SHL. Do you leave Edvinsson in the SHL the extra year to get Johansson, who is older, into the team and acclimatized before you bring Smooth over?
First thing we have to do going into next season about the left side of the D is throw need completely out of the window when talking about Edvinsson and Johansson. Their play will dictate where they play next year, whether that's Detroit, Grand Rapids, or the SHL. I think the plan is, from what I've heard, they're both coming to North America. I think Johansson for sure. I might be getting that backwards. But either way, whatever is best for them and their development, where they're at, that's where they play. So even if they both come over and have really poor training camps in preseason, they both go to Grand Rapids, even if you have no left-handed D signed. You just do that because their development's more important than next season. That being said, if one of them or both of them come in and absolutely kick the doors down in training camp like Lucas Raymond did this year, then yeah, you put them on the Red Wings and that's one spot solved. I think both of them have enough questions in their game that they are definitely not locks for the Red Wings next year. So the answer is going to be old guys. I don't know if it'll be Stahl, DeKaiser, Leddy, Osterley's still signed for next year. I don't know who it's going to be, but that's going to be the path. Maybe they do take a swing on a Hampus Lindholm or someone similar hypothetically, and that's one spot solved. So maybe it's Lindholm, Osterley, Edvinsson's your left side next year. I don't know. It's weird that your three primary lefty are all pending UFAs. I don't remember the last time I seen this. So Yzerman definitely has his work cut out for him.
Sam W. says, could Gustav Lindstrom be more of a long-term second pair guy than a seventh defenseman at the end of his projection? With his IQ, ability to defend, solid puck play, and a little bit of physicality to go with his being a scratch golfer.
Possible. Not likely.
I would say his real true spot is closer to like solid 5. But I maintain what I said earlier. You could slot him up with the right partner in a situation of need to the second pair.
He needs to add something dynamic to his game because I could almost argue very legitimately right now that as of today, Lindstrom's playing better than Hronek.
He's playing defense.
Yeah. You could almost argue Lindstrom's had a better season than Hronek, but Hronek has tools in his game, his shot and his puck moving ability that Lindstrom doesn't.
Yeah.
So with Hronek, you're going to get a lot more variance, but that good side of Hronek is definitively better than Lindstrom right now, but you do get more consistency with Lindstrom. So it's going to be that gray area. If Lindstrom even had one of those two traits to the level of Hronek, he's already leapfrogged him in the depth chart, but he doesn't. So he's got that uphill battle because he's a good player and he's a solid player. But to play in the top 4 in the NHL, you can't just be a guy. To play in the top 4 on a team that's contending, you can't just be a guy.
There's a lot of people listening going, and you're like, not the Red Wings. Bill Nye the Thigh Guy says, are we tanking or not tanking? I don't know how to feel.
Just good old fashioned bad.
This is, yeah. It doesn't have to be tank or no tank. It's, you're trying your hardest to not suck, and sometimes, some nights you're doing it well, and some nights you're like, we still suck.
Yeah, this week is the perfect, shining example of that. The best defensive performance of the year, followed by one of the worst.
And I'm Derek, says, outside of hockey, what sport or event are most of you each excited for at the Olympics? I'm a big, I love curling.
Of course you say that.
Always down for a good bonspiel.
A what?
Get the fuck out of here. You like curling and you don't know the term bonspiel. In curling, it's a word for tournament.
Jesus Christ, there's a lot of things I'm learning about both of you.
I like watching it at the Olympics.
Fuck out of here, poser.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
and I don't even like curling that much.
I literally only watch it at the Olympics.
Well, here we go. We can have a.
You're telling me you're not watching the Scotties right now?
We can do the
I'm not
annual
either.
Wing Wheel Podcast Bonspiel.
That'd be fun. Grab a
I
few
would
pops.
You joke. I would do it. I got to curl
do
for
enjoy
1
curling.
week in grade 9 gym class, and that was fun as shit.
It is fun.
Hey, there's the Granite Club. We can go any day of the week.
Yeah, it is.
We won't, but
That's a
we could.
YouTube video right there.
100%.
Oh, we need a fourth.
Hey,
There you go.
Winged Wheel
Contest.
Pod. Yeah, contest time. Let's go.
come up, hang out with the Winged Wheel Pod.
Winner gets to play with Evan. Loser gets to play with Ryan.
Probably fair.
Ryan will have one of those geriatric things that helps him push the rock.
They look heavy, man.
He basically turns it into shuffleboard on ice.
I'm also, I like speed skating.
Yeah.
We talked about this.
The legs on all of them are ridiculous.
It just looks like lactic acid developing. That's what that whole thing looks like.
So for me to give an actual answer, if I'm getting up early enough, I'm a big snowboarding guy. Watching the snowboarding events.
A girl from Beaver Valley is competing in the Big Air.
Not real.
No.
Not a real place.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it is. It's a ski club just outside Collingwood.
Beaver Valley.
You're definitely not setting up a joke there.
We're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast.
Valley.
I don't know her.
Does Kat know?
No, I actually don't know her, but I follow
what
the
you-
ski resort on Instagram. And that's
Of
all I
course, you follow ski resorts on Instagram.
do. It's the best.
Oh, we need to go. Thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode. Thank you to the sponsor of the show, the FanDuel Sportsbook, and to our name-level supporters on Patreon, Arjun Shanker, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Kyle Karagetz, Nick Perks, Brett Bailey, Terry, driver for the number 69, Crying Ryan, Hannah's Banana Simon Jamathong, Taylor Tadgel, Matthew M. Rice, B. Diz, Carl Brutina Nanaluski, Chimmy, Citizen High Five, CJ Sully, Craig Kibble, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Greach, Hana Lee, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kaylin Wood, King Tone, Kyle Hashman, Licking Windows for Fun, Matt McKay, R.A., Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Your Friendly Neighborhood Window Peeper, Zach Spring, Alex Blackmore, stop it. Andrew Bohan, Sam Bengtson, Adam I Wish I Could Finish Like Ernie, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog, Ben Barron, Brad's Dad Moan, Connor Leighton, Dave W, Eaton Ass, Smoking Grass, Eric Sinkowski, Evan Spicy Rum Chata Boof, Evans Bingo Card, James Laporte, Jeremiah Dobo, Jeremy Brocker, John Evans, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Logan Stahl, Matt Keeler, Matt S, Max $1 million, Revi DeLuca, Terry Actual, Trevor Pevovar, Zach Handyside, and Zach McCann, a driving range superstar. Have a great bunch spiel, everyone. We'll see you on Sunday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.